Chapter 23, Turning Tables. Yeshua and his family returned to Capernaum for a few days, and then I caught up with the group on their way south. Their numbers had grown a little. Some of us with him were new, like me. Others, like Shimon, Andreas, Yaakov, and a different man called Yohanan, had been hanging around him for longer. They were simple fishermen and traders from Galilee, but there seemed to be a special bond between them all and Yeshua. They were tight. As for me, I was content to be an observer. It had been a while since I had been to Jerusalem for Passover. I'd never liked the city much. All those crowds, and the closer we got, the more uncomfortable I felt, especially when we saw the Roman troops. The other followers all had their eyes locked on Yeshua, but I couldn't take my eyes off all those Roman centurions marching down from their garrison further up the coast. We must have seen hundreds, probably thousands of them, all marching in tight formation along the trade routes. They strut along the roads with their weapons and their disdain for us on display. They take up all the space and force the rest of us to step aside and make way. I considered them like vermin. The atmosphere was always tense near soldiers. People in the region lived with fear every day. The Roman message to every Jew they passed was always clear: comply or there will be violence. By the time we finally arrived at the city and reached the temple, I wasn't thinking so much about Yeshua, but about the Romans. How tragic it all was to be celebrating Passover, the moment God rescued our ancestors from slavery to the oppressive Pharaoh of Egypt, while the Roman troops ruled over us with an iron fist. Had anything really changed at all? We were just living in the past, pretending that we were free, when we were as trapped as ever. We traded one master for another. As we joined with the crowds beneath the pool of Shiloh and climbed up towards the temple's southern entrance, I felt a little disappointed with Yeshua. Everyone around him was singing psalms of supposed victory. This sense of hope that seemed to be growing among everyone felt misplaced, almost pathetic. Hope is dangerous to the powerless. The wine was one thing, and maybe I couldn't quite figure that out yet, but I couldn't fight the feeling that Yeshua was just another good man, hopelessly doing his best, yet ultimately, cruelly spreading false hope. One party trick wouldn't change that feeling. There was no simple solution for our people, not while Romans ruled our land. I fell back behind the others, away from him and the rest of his group of friends. I was hot, away from home, and beginning to think that I'd maybe made a mistake coming even this far. I was lost in my thoughts when I heard raised voices up ahead. It sounded like Yeshua was shouting at someone. I'd never heard him raise his voice. That got my attention. I pressed through the crowd into the outer courts of the temple. When I got there, the shouting was over, but something serious had happened. There were tables flipped over, and some of the money traders were scrambling around on the floor, picking up their coins. There were a whole lot of angry people shouting at Yeshua. And as for him, he looked enraged. He was holding a whip made from strands of leather bound together, and his knuckles were white from gripping it so hard. "Show us a sign from God," yelled one of the traders angrily at Yeshua. "Prove that you have the right to do these things." The trader paused. "Because you don't." Yeshua's eyes flashed as his voice simmered with emotion. Then he slowly raised his voice so all could hear him and exclaimed, "Destroy this temple, and I will rebuild it in 3 days." That instantly set them off, arguing about how it had taken decades to construct. And then they all started bustling around, picking up items and writing tables. Others shouted more abuse back at Yeshua from a distance. I didn't care what they all were arguing about. I just couldn't take my eyes off Yeshua. He was standing there, his eyes full of fire, the whips twitching in his hand. He looked primed to fight anyone who came close to him. People kept their distance. Yeshua looked dangerous, but there was something about him I couldn't quite pin down. He wasn't like all the other teachers. He didn't want to play the same old games and keep pretending that life was okay, that our old rituals will somehow suffice. It was as if everyone just wanted us to stay compliant, to keep the status quo. But Yeshua appeared to be preparing to go further, much further. If you cause chaos in the temple in Jerusalem, you're asking for trouble, not just from the Romans, but from the Jewish spiritual leaders. Both were dangerous. To me, his intensity and anger showed the spirit of a renegade, but strangely, I liked it. Maybe Yeshua really did want to take on the system and even fix it. God only knew. As for destroying and rebuilding the temple, well, to me, the whole rotten system was broken and needed rebuilding anyway. And as for the 3 days part, I liked Yeshua's style. He had made me take notice. Just like the first gulp of wine back in Cana, the whole experience lasted only a moment. But all these moments were changing me inside. And for now, that was intriguing. I wasn't sure where all this was going, but I decided to stick around.